Boop. Family. Yeah. I'm trying to get my life together. You know you can hear me. Doo. Hope you've been having a fantastic week. I was actually caught up in my guilty pleasure. I don't tell nobody this. Well, it depends on who you are. I do tell some people. But one of my guilty pleasures is watching the Kendra G show. And this woman was just on there talking about she has dating issues. She came to complain about a date that she went on with some dude and complain about men. And Kendra really was trying to help her see how one of her issues, her attitude. Every time she tried to help her, she had an argument back. Like, girl, Jesus Christ, you got a terrible attitude. So I was sitting there stuck watching that mess. Like I said, it's my guilty pleasure. It's drama. Did I do that already? I did. Well, let's see. How we gonna do this? Oh, let me stop that music if it's still playing. Hey, fantastic. It's not playing, so we can get the party going. All right, family. Welcome to Soul Swami Live. Another episode of Soul Swami Live. What we do here is healing. We discuss healing in various forms through conversations, through homework, through prompt questions, through live energy readings, and learning new concepts. You know what I mean? And you can generally catch us every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And sometimes I'll show, and Twitch, definitely. Twitch for sure. I can't forget them. Occasionally I might show up on TikTok, but I get banned every time I go on TikTok, so it is definitely not one of my more favorite sites to stream on. You know what I mean? Hold on. Do I still got a lot of stuff open? Yeah, I do. Excuse me. Generally, at the beginning of every show, we do some energy work with some sound therapy, light therapy, and then we discuss a specific energy point. And this week, we did the throat last week, and this week we are on the heart, right? And the color for heart, so if you're in the light therapy or color therapy, with some green shirts. As a matter of fact, it's kind of hard to tell with all this green lighting, but I got a green shirt on today. The color for your heart is green, which was interesting because last week when we did the energy reading, the person wanted to use a green pendulum. So they knew they needed to do some heart work, which I was excited about. But green is the color for your heart. The element is air, so the breath work will work fantastic. That breath work will help you get your heart back in order. If you are into essential oils, excuse me, I just ate, so forgive me. I'm a little gassy. Then I had these. I seen this recipe for lentil taco meat because I only eat meat once a week, once or twice a week. So most every other day I do vegetarian, vegan dishes. So I tried it and it was cool. But it's taco meat, so give me a little, make me a little gassy. It's scratch, not taco meat. It is beans disguised as taco meat. Oh God, but it was good. It still tasted like a bean burrito, not faux taco meat. So I don't know. It's good. Lentil as ground beef, but it is not ground beef. All right, so if you are into essential oils, forgive me, my sidetrack mind. You want to think of rose, jasmine, geranium. Flower scents are pretty good for your heart, which is funny. I generally have some flowers around the crib. Um, the heart element is control over your love, your compassion, your empathy, your kindness, and your ideas of acceptance, whether you accept yourself or accept others. If you are into gemstones, stones, and crystals, you want to think emerald. Now think about this. My mama has a beautiful emerald. That emerald is so nice and so clear. That thing's so clear it looked like glass. Oh, she'd have had it for a long time. It is so clear that it looks like glass. It is so clear that if she wears it into a jewelry store, they try to buy it off her hand. That's a good emerald. So I love that emerald. You want to think jade. And I got a couple of jade rollers, green calcite, rose quartz, boop boop boop, which I got in the heart shape. So it's funny. Rose quartz, adventurine, green tourmaline is pretty good for your heart work. So next we'll do our sound bowl, little sound therapy, and I got the rain stick too. And then we'll move into our breath work. Honestly, I've been doing 444, so we might do 444 breath work. As of right now, just relax a little bit and allow the sound to help soothe your spirit. Hey, Liberty, I ain't even, wait a minute. Let me see something. Okay, you just showed up on everything. I just happened to go check Twitch and see your comments because they weren't showing on my streamer at first. So. You want the drum instead of the rain stick? You know, I'll get up and go get it. Do you want the big purple drum or the little green drum? Makes sense, right? All right, you know, I never walk away from this spot, so, but I'm about to do it now, so give me a second. You know what's funny? I actually get fully dressed for these shows. And I'm laughing because I didn't do that for work. You know, all I was doing was putting a shirt on. Listen, I gotta be careful today. I'll be easily distracted, and we'll have 444 minutes of side conversations. Mm, hey man. Hey, this little one be jamming. All right, we're gonna move into our breathing. Um, I've been thinking about doing the 444. I've been randomly just doing it for myself. So if you are unfamiliar with box breathing, is we breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, and you controlled breathe out for 4 seconds. But all you really got to do is just focus on your breathing and clearing your energy. Make sure you harness the power of your heart through breath work, and offer your heart some healing, some clarity, all those good things. Excuse me, and I'll keep track of the count for you. On the count of three, we will start our breath work. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. Last time, family. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. And with all the energy your heart can muster, and while you are still breathing, I want you to repeat these affirmations after me and incorporate them into your heart. I love myself and others. I deserve to be loved. I forgive others easily. My heart is fully open, loving, and pure. And I follow the voice of my heart. I love myself and others. I deserve to be loved. I forgive others easily. My heart is fully open, loving, and pure. And I follow the voice of my heart. TikTok, not TikTok. Instagram. I love y'all. I see y'all showing some support today. I appreciate you. Tyson, thanks for stopping by, homeboy. Catastic. Sassy Cat, I appreciate you. Listen, her name Cat, and that Sassy Cat is just so funny. Every time I call her Sassy Cat. Tawana, I appreciate you stopping by too. You know we go back for years. Jazzy, come get this work, girl. I know we done talked about it before, man. I'm gonna be outside. I don't know. I'm gonna be outside after this government shutdown. So I've been inside since then. But as soon as they open up, I'm back outside. Well, come get this work, girl. All right, we're gonna move into today's show. What do we talk about? So, let's move on. Let's move on. Where we at? Side cam. All right, we're gonna have a little general discussion. Then we're gonna get back on our topic of what is it? Finding the blessing. One I just want to kind of talk about last week. Last week was kind of great. So we were supposed to finish the finding the blessing topic last week, but we wound up spending a little time doing an energy reading. Well, actually 2.5 hours doing the energy reading, which was great. So if you didn't get to see what a live energy reading looks like because you weren't on the show last week, check out some of them first videos, because the first videos, I used to do them every time I went live. But that's just a lot of work. But last week we wound up having a friend that I've probably known, Lord, Jesus Christ, I hate to put our business out there like that, but let's say I met her in either 2010 or 2011, one of them good years. So I've known her for a bunch, and I was thankful for her to allow, well, not even, you know what, I I was watching something, and it said something so amazing to me. And they were talking about love and after you've been hurt, right? And the word that kind of stuck out to me, I had over the last couple of weeks, I've been thinking about this, the difference between courage and bravery, right? And I really struggled to get I don't need my work computer to come on. I really struggled to get clarity on what the difference between bravery and courage is, right? And it's kind of like that fine line that we were talking about, confidence and self-esteem. But they said something that kind of stuck with me. They said it takes bravery to be able to open yourself and love wholeheartedly and vulnerably again. And that was interesting because many of us rely on our courage. We see ourselves taking chances to love again, giving ourselves the opportunity to date again. But in taking those risks, the confidence and the courage it takes to take those risks is one thing. But it does take a whole nother level of bravery to be able to love as vulnerable as you did the last time that you got hurt. And I want to say that because as we are rebuilding our relationships with some of these words, I really do want to incorporate this idea of bravery. Because it does take a little bit more than courage when you've been hurt and you want to try again. So bravery is going to be one of our words to add. We got so many words. I need to have word boards all over the place. We have so many words. What we got? Soul, family, worthy. What's all that stuff? Can you see it? Can I move? There you go. Boom. Safety, right and free. That safe one has been showing up. It's crazy. I was on a pod. Well, I was on a panel last week, and one of the things came up was having a safe space for communication. And then my homeboy called me, and we talked about trying to create because we have the men's group, right? And we want to create something outside of that. I've had several women ask me about creating a women's group, so I've been thinking about helping them with that, but I'm a little hesitant for various reasons, with one of them being the discipline and consistency it takes to show up every week. But outside of that, for hesitancy, one space that I do want to try to help us create is a safe space for men and women to have some of these conversations where we can have realistic conversations, because so many of us are living in echo chambers where we think what we see on social media, we ignore that the algorithm is there to reinforce some of our already strange ideas. The algorithm is not going to show you something different. So we don't even realize, even in our social media world, we reside in echo chambers. And I hear people talk about men in a way that men don't think, even men. And then I hear people talk about women in a way that women don't think, which is very wild. So I do kind of want to build and adapt this. I mean, not this, because this is Soul Family. This is what we do here. But an extension of Soul Family is try to create a space for men and women to have these realistic conversations with real answers and not, I don't know, real answers that require us to have some accountability for our choices and the way we live. Right. So I want to be mindful with time. So I was gonna do a little more talking, but we just gonna jump into the party. So for the last couple of weeks, we have been one. The first thing we did was we made. See, that's what I don't know. I ain't even gonna lie to you. So it would. I don't think that group meeting would be something for the masses. So I don't think that's which makes it a little more complex. I don't think it'd be something that we would do live, so people can bear witness. You know what I mean? Maybe in like if it got to a point where it'd be a little private group where you know what I mean. If you can't make it or whatever, you can join virtually while we're live. But I don't know if I want to do it live like this because you know, I want us to be able to have the freedom to have open and honest discussions, right? And then just being transparent with you, because that's a very good question. Like, what platform would I do it on? Because I'm on all the platforms now. It does definitely create a certain level of fear, and just being honest, I don't know if it's my past, present, or future, or some spot in between that's saying this now. But I ain't even gonna lie, girl. The fear resides in the women. You know what I mean? And I say this because I have a men's group, right? So for over a year, year and a half, I've been a part of this men's group. So I've really been able to see the intricacies of how an all male group works, right? But with that, that's one perspective, right? And then the other perspective I wound up having is a lot of times I am invited into female dominated spaces, women dominated spaces, right? And yeah. I don't even know how to say it, but I am always amazed at, well, not amazed. Some common theme that I necessarily think needs to be addressed is there's a lot of anger. And I do it in Reiki, you know what I mean? There's a lot of anger. And our women are mad at everything, which really shows that they really mad at themselves. But they're bleeding on a lot of things. And the things that concerns me the most is the way that they are bleeding on each other. You know what I mean? So in these groups, I see them attack each other. Like, I don't even care about how they are towards men, right? Because as men, we're in a space to be able to defend ourselves or, you know what I mean, walk away or y'all not us. So I can not deal with you and go find some company that's just like me. You know what I mean? But for women in the safe spaces, because even in creating this group, I talked to, yeah, it's just there's some fear that I would have to work through in creating that safe space that allows men and women's voices to be heard. You know what I mean? So it's probably something I got to work on. We do our men's group on Zoom. Side note, I'm side noting like hell. I told you, Liberty, this is gonna be one of them days. We do our men's group on Zoom, which is dope. You know what I mean? So I would probably do something like Zoom. Or surprisingly, I don't. The wild thing about it, my streaming software, whatever this is, Streamlabs, I can create a little room where several like okay, so like you hit that link to join, it's a waiting room, and I can create a system where we all can just get online and have this conversation. But I don't think it's. I think it's a limited number of people. I think it might be 10 people at the most, and I don't know. I would have to think about that because maybe it could be a live YouTube show. I see people do that, and most of the time, people are afraid of someone seeing them vulnerable. People are afraid of someone seeing that they don't have it together. People are afraid that someone might see their fears, right? It's the same issue why I don't get a lot of people to do the live energy readings. They make that decision. They're like, I should do a live energy reading. And then their next thought is always some fear based thing. Everybody's always afraid on what might come out. So that lets me know that most people are afraid to be seen. You know what I mean? So we all out here hiding ourselves because the idea of having an open conversation within a group is so frightening, right? So I don't know. Again, it's just complex. Complex. And right now, we working on the book. Yo, listen, I got this book, this good book cover that I do want to share with you all, but listen, I am struggling. I want 7 icons and I keep getting 8 icons and I don't know how to remove the 7th icon. I don't know. I might have to take it to Canva and let Canva see what you know what, I might do that. I might have to see what Canva can produce. Um, yeah. If I give it some prompts and stuff. And I don't know, I'm about to side note again about AI. Let me tell you something. As somebody that use AI regularly, when they tell you that these people are losing jobs because of AI, I can wholeheartedly tell you that is a lie. That is a straight lie. Those people are being laid off for some other reason because AI, although it is fantastic, it still is just a super search engine. It can do a lot of different things, but it is not ready to do it on its own. It don't understand. Like, listen, I was I was talking to AI. I'm like, yo, why you keep creating eight icons? And they'll be like, you know what? You're right. Here's 7. And it still be eight. I literally have been arguing with AI over 7 or 8 icons. Anyway, let's move on. I'm sorry. You got me. I told you, Liberty, man, it's your fault. You start asking me questions and got me sidetracked. And I really do want to address the blessings. Do 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 do. All right, let me see one thing. Do do do. All right, I'm about to give a shout out. So maybe we get. Oh, you know what? I do this every time. You know what I'll be forgetting when I'm trying to tell everybody to hit the link to join the live is I don't be turning on that damn camera. So I definitely need to join the camera. If one of you Instagram people feeling lucky, man, hit the link. Join the live. It's lit. And I'll be gentle. I always keep it a little safe for us. So if there's anything that might be, girl, don't be quiet. You know how we side note. I ain't even gonna lie. This is one way that we consistently get conversation in, and people don't understand that. So I just be talking to you sometimes. Um, what was I about to do? Oh, turn on guest. Oh shoot. Don't mind this, family. I'm doing too much. I don't do much. All right. So I had to turn on collab cam. Don't be quiet. It's all good. All right, what are we doing? Energy recording. So, over the last several weeks, we've been in a space where we identified at least 25 generational curses. One of the main purposes of that was because we hear a lot of conversations about generational curses and conversations around people wanting to break generational curses, but we very rarely hear people identify what those generational curses are. And then when we got into a space of identifying generational curses, we found at least 25 of them, right? And I'm sure if I talked to any one person that was trying to break generational curses or saw it upon themselves to break generational curses, they wouldn't have thought of 25, period. So once we identified those generational curses, what we wanted to do and what we moved into is identifying which of our four bodies that this curse affects, right? It's either a emotional curse, it is either a physical curse, a spiritual or a mental curse, right? And once we broke it into bodies, we began to understand why we see it as a curse, right? So the opposite of a curse is a blessing. So how do we lose sight of our blessings and started calling them curses, right? Because the blessing comes with weight and responsibility. And the burden of those responsibilities sometimes can have you lose sight of what's most important. So, for example, like those people who put provide, like, I gotta provide. You do. And the burden of the burden of providing, the responsibility of providing sometimes can make you lose sight of how important it is for you to be there. Presence is just as strong as provisions. You feel me? So what we wanted to do is then begin to draw that direct connection from what we viewed as a curse, recognize that we lost sight of it because of the weight, the responsibility, the burden of the blessing. So we took it backwards and drew the direct connection to that blessing based on the emotional bodies. So the first one we did was the emotional generational curses and the blessings. So we did the emotional generational burdens to identify the generational blessings. So some of the generational blessings of emotions that people have are right here on the screen. So openness, emotional openness, and healthy expression. So those people, I ain't even gonna lie. The people I can say that exhibit this for us all the time, whether they do it because I ask, regardless of their motivation, the people who deal with emotional suppression, which is why their gift resides in emotional openness and healthy expression. And I say this because 99% of the people who have done a live energy reading, one of the things that they were dealing with was emotional suppression, right? And what the live energy reading did and why so many of them felt better afterwards is allowed them to function in their authentic self, which was emotional openness and healthy expression. So they loved it. They were emotionally vulnerable and they had healthy expression. They shared it. They didn't even care that the world could see their shortcomings. Right? It's fantastic. Self-compassion is a great blessing. Emotional freedom. That's how you break those shame and guilt cycles. Safe connection and emotional trust, your gift. You are not afraid of intimacy. You are not living in seclusion, masking it as solitude for health. No, we are creating self-connections and emotional trust. We got empowerment and personal responsibility. Healing through mourning. That is how you deal with some of your grief. Healing through mourning and remembrance. Create a space to acknowledge those that came before you or those that impact your life. Healthy boundaries and mutual respect, which is a tough one. You know what I mean? The funny thing about that is when you start looking at the your boundaries and creating healthy boundaries. You look around at the friends that you have, you look around at the environments that you are in, and the first realization that you come to is how little you did have boundaries. Although you may be good at drawing the line, which is not the same as having a boundary, because you generally draw the line after someone has crossed that boundary several times, right? Oh man, Jesus, he did it for me. Listen, it's this dude who sang this song. Jesus, he did it for me. That dude lives rent free in my head. That song lives rent free in my head. All right. Do do do. Okay, here we go. I don't like that. Forgive me, people. I'm trying to get one more thing set up the way I want it. All right, then we moved on to celebration of individuality and unity. One of the things that we wind up doing is living authentically at ourselves and creating spaces where people can come together. So as much as I talk about that space for male and women to have these open conversations, more than likely I will do a great part in helping to create that, because I want to break down this comparison and competition that is going on between men and women that makes us believe that we don't need each other. We need to celebrate our individuality and form spaces for unity. Then lastly, you got presence, empathy, and emotional support. That is how you live authentically against emotional availability. You got to put away that fear and move into your emotional availability. Hey, girl, I ain't seen you in a while. How you been? Side note, see, now it ain't just you, Liberty. Somebody else showed up. So I ain't gonna give you no hard time. Did you see oh man, they don't have did you see Jackie done moved to Washington? That's kind of wild. I'm so happy for her. You know what I mean? Side note, y'all don't know who Jackie is. These are people that we used to work together. Um, and one of my staff had moved from North Carolina to Washington State, and I'm so proud of her. Again, as a side note. Next, we went into our physical burdens and our generational blessings. So, poor eating habit, nutritional awareness, and balanced meals is your authenticity. Lack of exercise, you need an active lifestyle and movement. Again, active lifestyle does not just mean going to the gym and working out. For example, the example we use is dancers. You know what I mean? Many of us used to love dancing as children. And as we got older, somewhere we lost that. But that movement is essential. This is our gift. One of the reasons why we love dancing is because we were physically gifted at dancing, whether it be the discipline, the willpower, whatever it is, and we no longer do that. So you want to make sure you're getting movement. Sobriety and healthy coping mechanisms is how we escape substance abuse. Again, we also understood that substance abuse includes food, that poor eating habits. Avoidance of medical care. You want to do preventative care and wellness is your blessing. Physical safety and nurturing environments is your blessing. You create this space, especially if you're a child that experienced abuse. We do not continue that. The justification of abuse, especially under the guise of discipline, is no longer acceptable. We will not justify physical abuse under the guise of discipline. You hear me say it again? We will not justify physical abuse under the guise of discipline. And that's how we do. We next went self-care and health education. That's where make sure we understand what works for us. So self-care and health education and the collective health and wellness, that is winding up having systems that work best for your body. You know what I mean? So like not eating things that don't agree with your body just because you like them. One of my friends say understanding, like for example, health education would be learning how herbs affect your body. Or perfect example for this for me, one way I moved out of this neglect of health and wellness was when I moved into Reiki. Reiki helps me work on my all emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical body, period. And the way I had to learn that is through health education, right? And now, because I live in that space, it puts me in a position to be able to help others move into their greatness. So, Liberty, another side note, the plan is to get my master's level, and after I do that, by December, through December or something, we gonna start some classes. Overworked and burnout, do need to function in your authentic self and create a work-life balance. So something is off, that you are burning yourself out. You need work-life balance and time to get restorative rest. Not just go to sleep, but restorative rest, a rest that allows you to put down the weight and responsibilities and burdens. You create those avenues for yourself and others. The next, we did our spiritual burdens and our spiritual blessings. Our gifts to break away from that religious shame has been spiritual freedom and acceptance. We accept that he is called by many different names. We accept that we do things to honor our spirit and the connectedness we have in everything. We allow people to live in their truth. That's it. We don't try to say that you're going to hell. We don't demonize that what is different than us, right? So fear-based teaching, we're moving from being afraid of God to a space of love. Understand? We gonna love the interconnectedness. We gonna love ourselves. We're not looking for God fearing. We're looking for God loving. The people who have made the connection and see that they should not be afraid of that what is there to help them. You feel me? That's why we're not living in that fear base. We're gonna move into faith based, love-based faith. Love-based faith, which is necessarily needed for a lot of us. And it's funny, they've been having a lot of discussions on the TikTok around Christianity and God fearing. Suppression of spiritual identity, authentic spiritual expression. It's funny. One of the ways I see this is honoring your ancestors and not honoring your ancestors. So you can honor everything, but do not forget those who actually came before them. Now, that does not mean pray to them, but you live in a way that is honorable to them, the sacrifices that they made. You feel me? And you can offer honor to them. You feel me? Disconnect from ancestral traditions. We're gonna reconnect with heritage and rituals. Funny, I watched this whole video today in how we lost the connection through grocery stores. One way we used to get connected with ancestral traditions were foraging. Our families used to pick their food, and we say that as though they had gardens, but no, I just see an apple tree, I pick it and eat the apple. But with the growth of grocery stores, foraging for your food became an activity of the poor. So we are reconnecting with that. We're making sure the things that we put in our body, we grow some of that. We're more selective to understand what we put in our body. And then we honor our families and our ancestors and reconnect to some of the traditions, especially the easiest way to reconnect with them is through some of the healing traditions. Home remedies, that's what we talked about. Rigid spiritual expectations have a personal relationship with faith. As a matter of fact, somebody sent me something, and they were giving all these suggestions on how you should heal. It was like that 500 suggestions, and my response was, see, that's why we listen to ourselves. We develop a personal relationship. We don't let anyone else tell us this is how our relationship should look. It needs to look authentic to us. We develop our personal relationship. For me, my personal relationship resides in the interconnectedness of everything. My Holy Trinity is God, the universe, and my ancestors. You dig? There we go. So that is my personal relationship. But here, you clear away the cobwebs, you clear away the misteachings, and you eat the meat, spit out the bones, decide what works with you, and create your personal relationship with faith. Faith, open dialogue and exploration of beliefs. You are open to having discussions around faith and belief because you understand that he will be called by many different names. You don't use religion as a way. You don't use spirituality as a way to separate and segregate people, right? Growth mindset and possibility thinking is your gift, your generational blessing. When you face against those limiting beliefs, I said this today to somebody when they were like, as a matter of fact, we was talking about buying sneakers, and they was like, I need child fathers to buy the sneakers, go through this process. And I was laughing. That's one of them limiting beliefs. That is not a gender specific position, but we move from that growth mindset and possibility thinking. So we do believe in potential, but we begin to recognize what potential looks like that is about to be energy in motion. We don't just focus on consistent potential, but we look at people who have potential and had potential that they have already lived up to. So we don't just look for potential. We look for people with potential and simultaneously living up to their potentials, right? So potential ain't bad. Listen, and the funny thing about you saying your granny used to forage for pecans. Listen, if I'm authentic, that's really the only way I ate pecans and nuts like growing up. Like you go home, you go see your grandma, or you go to one of your aunt houses or somebody's house, and they always had that nut bowl. You cannot believe that they were going to the grocery store buying these nuts every time they wanted to fill up that nut bowl. Or as soon as you play in their yard, you fall down, hurt your knee on one of them hard nuts. Right? So I get how we used to forage, and nuts is the way that we really can connect, because it wasn't that long ago that we could talk about our grandparents. In the story, the truth wound up becoming that was lost with our parents. Our parents didn't teach us any of those skills because they were afraid that people would see us as poor, right? So that's why you got to go as far as your grandparents, because your grandparents taught your parents, or your great grandparents taught your parents. That's the only thing they knew. But perception creates individual reality, and people did not want to be seen as poor, so they didn't pass down these traditions. But again, now picking up a pecan off the ground that you seen that fall from the tree is almost like eating a bug. People will look at you like, oh my God, did you just pick that off the ground? But where do you think pecans come from? So that's a perfect example. I ain't have store-bought nuts until it was peanuts. But then I looked at the video and see how peanuts were raised too, which is very interesting. I didn't know that they grow underground like that. Like, I don't know. It's weird. Look up how peanuts are farmed. I had no idea. But great observation on how we've lost our connection to some of the traditions of our ancestors, specifically the idea of things like foraging. All right, so now we are on our mental. Ooh, Lord, have mercy. So I had to take a pause because, and not to be too descriptive or put anybody's business out there, the first generational burden or curse that we wound up recognizing, or one of them, that's not in any specific order, was the mental health stigma, right? And one of the soul families, somebody that I work on, is this one thing I'm gonna tell you. If you do work with me, you gonna get you a flock, or you gonna realize you already had a flock that needs your help. You just didn't realize it, right? So one of the soul family is having a friend that is going through a severe mental health crisis, right? And the ironic thing about it, it wound up landing them a little bit in the hospital. You know what I mean? And one of the things that is blocking the support is this idea around the mental health stigma. You know what I mean? Nobody really wants to be identified, or they don't want to be seen as a person with that issue. And or what I was gonna say, a lot of people wind up begin to use the diagnosis as a guise for their questionable behaviors. Like, I do this because I'm neurodivergent. No, you're doing that because you don't want to take control, right? Or you don't want to get the support. So the gift, worrying about mental health, worrying about being labeled, worrying about going to seek some form of therapy, some sort of help. The reason why you're thinking about it, the reason why you're avoiding it, is because your gift resides in mental health awareness and support. But to be able to reside and live authentically in that gift, you have to rebuild your relationship with the idea of support, because support requires a certain level of vulnerability and exposing yourself that many of us are afraid of, to let people know that you don't have it all together, and let people know that you do need help, or creating a space where people can see that you need help. And many of us, a lot of times, we wait until our mental forces us. We have a mental breakdown before we actually allow ourselves to have this vulnerability. And even in the midst of that mental breakdown, many of us are still afraid to be seen, and we'll unfortunately project our fears and anger, because that's one of the few emotions that we do not hide, to block us from getting support. But to live authentically and to find your freedom, it is being aware of how your mentality affects you, and being open and vulnerable enough to seek and receive the support. Because in some situations, somebody will point you in the right direction. I know, for example, the soul family that I was talking about earlier, she tell anybody with ears that they need to come. You know what I mean? They get pointed in the right direction. But those people, you still have to take the steps for yourself, right? And to be funny, a lot of times people be judging from the sideline. Like, I'm not gonna do that. But you don't even know what that is. The next one, low self-esteem, self-worth, or self-esteem, right? Again, many of us don't think that that's our issue. But how we recognize if that's our issue is we think about the decisions that we have made in life, right? And the easiest decision to draw that correlation to is our dating experiences. Your self-esteem, your self-worth is reflected by who you chose to give your heart to. So if you could think about your past relationships and you could think about how they were not good for you, then the question resides is, where's your self-worth and self-esteem, right? Now, how we function in our authenticity when it comes to low self-worth after we recognize through our dating history how it reflects our self-worth and self-esteem, we move in confidence and self-acceptance, right? So one way we wind up thinking about self-acceptance is kind-heartedness, right? I hear this from people who self-identify, or others have identified as kind-hearted, empathetic people, right? Some of those people have the biggest conflict within themselves because they're so focused on someone taking advantage of their kindness. That is a low self-esteem, low self-worth statement, right? But once we accept that we are a kind-hearted person, once we live authentic to our empathy, we'll begin to make choices that are in alignment with who we are authentically. One of the reasons we don't have these experiences because we are not living as our true self, or we'd allow one incident to adjust our trajectory on who we are. So we begin to accept ourselves. One way that self-acceptance comes in place too, as I'll never forget, I was doing Reiki with this one person, and the energy came up around anger and upset, and they began to tell me about men, and they were saying how they, you know what I mean? I'm tired of dealing with people always on that BS and bringing that BS to them and all of those things, right? And I said, well, you do understand the only people that can deal with BS people is, and they said a BS person. And they looked at me like, so I'm the BS? Yes. Yes. Self-acceptance is realizing that you may be the problem that needs to be addressed, but you accept that, right? And you move forward and it builds your confidence. So confidence and accepting the good, bad, and the indifferent about yourself is your gift. Limiting beliefs about success, growth mindset, and possibility thinking is the blessing. Ironically, I had a question posed to me today, and it was simply, do rich people think that people who not rich people, scratch, because they may not be rich, but people who marry for money, do they think, or they look down on people who marry for love? And that was a good question, because the answer really resides in limiting beliefs about success. So if they do, it's because they have limiting beliefs about success. Their success is tied to finances. But some other people's success, it may be tied to a healthy family, right? So to live in a function, if you find yourself in a space that you have defined success as this box, where it's only maybe just physical success, but you haven't figured out what emotional success looks like, mental success looks like, or spiritual success look like. And that's where we move into this growth mindset and possibility thinking, because we start designing what success look like in these other bodies. Not just the material, tangible things, but how am I successful emotionally? And that's where the possibility thinking is, because once you are able to define success through mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional, then that will require the possibility thinking. And once you define it, you'll begin to help others define it for themselves, right? The next one is distrust of institutions. That is the burden. But your gift resides in informed trust, right? So, for example, the main institution that we've talked about a lot has been, we talked about hospitals and stuff, but one that we focused on is the institution of marriage. It's a lot of conversations around this institution of marriage, right? And most of the conversations, they talk about the burden, they talk about the responsibilities, they talk about the negative outcomes, they talk about all these things that create a distrust of the institution of marriage, where people can make that commitment and one day decide that they don't want it anymore, which is interesting, right? But your gift resides not in the fear, not in the information on one side of the coin. Your gift resides in informed, right? That information becomes from healthy examples of the institution you want to be a part of. So many of us have that distrust of institution that has poured over into relationships and marriage that we don't even realize that we are making decisions on the trauma of others or the possible trauma that we may not even face, right? So we learn positive information that strengthens our trust in the system. That is, we start talking to people with good experiences, because people with good experiences don't go tell everybody that. People with bad experiences go home and make a video immediately. Hey, Shanna, I appreciate you. I almost called you. I know somebody said I done got the memo that you don't like to be called our childhood name. So it'd be so hard for me. I'll be so close so many times to calling you our childhood, your childhood name that we grew up. But I respect you. So I call you your name. Well, thanks for stopping by, family. And not only do we get information that allows us to strengthen our trust, then we begin to advocate for that. Because as much as we have a distrust of the institution of marriage, that union within itself, a healthy marriage union, will create so many level of freedoms that we did not know that we were missing out on by ourselves. For example, the responsibility of raising children is no longer just yours. The responsibility of paying bills is no longer just yours. You have a support system, and there is freedom. That is at least two rocks. Yeah, that liberty. Two rocks you could take out your book bag. So that rock thing, I've been using it ever since too. I've been working on this book, and we almost at the end of the 7 Spaces of Healing. I've been talking about it for a minute, but we're in crunch time now. And one of the metaphors I use in there is about our experiences like a rock. Each one is a rock. And we put that rock in our book bag. And as we go down that path, that book bag gets heavier and heavier because we just keep adding rocks. But through that advocacy, you wind up removing a rock and sharing the gift and the informed trust that you now have. Woo. Internalized racism or colorism. Internalized racism is much bigger than we want to talk about. Than I want to address. One that I want to necessarily address is colorism, right? And I say this because your gift resides in cultural pride and self-love. So the funny thing about that, my homeboy brought this up, and I think this is a very good example, right? So when I grew up, I went through this period. Like in my house, we had Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. I did stuff about Marcus Garvey. You know what I mean? W.E.B. Du Bois. So we just a lot of information, right? And that was to battle internalized racism, right? I didn't want to, my family didn't want us to feel less. We didn't want to buy into that eugenic things. And the thing it wound up creating in us was a sense of cultural pride. So one of the worst things that people can say, especially to a black person right now, is saying that we don't have no culture. We do. You just don't know it because you're not accounting it as culture. All those people I just talked about that gave us stories on the history, our people been writing books and doing things since the beginning of time. Even if we just talk about America, the changes that we've made in America as black people gives you a cultural pride. So we can function regardless in the internalized, regardless in the external racism that may be projected on us. We function in our authenticity when we have a pride in our people, a pride, not those people that be on there on you'll see online or somewhere in the world like black people don't have no unity. Brother, you don't have any cultural pride. So much so that you'll get on this internet and tell the world how ignorant you are about your own people, right? And once you get that cultural pride, you know you come from a whole long list of movers and shakers. You create this system of self-love for yourself, right? And that's one of the things that you do got to reshape. So as a matter of fact, the example that I use for the growth of self-love is being a dark-skinned child. So I've been chocolate for all my life. I've been, you know what, listen to my mama, let her tell her, she swear Fayetteville made me this chocolate. I stayed there one year and she was like, oh my God, you done turned my baby all black, which is interesting, colorism, because what's the problem with being extra chocolate? And so, you know, grew up with a time period where being this chocolate wasn't always seen as beautiful. And I can tell you, I done lost count the amount of times I was called an African booty scratcher or something ignorant like that. You feel me? So having a cultural pride, learning that I came from people who actually did stuff, people who actually cared, made it easier for me to function in a space of self-love, right? So you authentically love the skin that you're in. You authentically love your flaws, and the things that you don't love, you work on them if you can. And if you can't, you accept them because we are perfectly imperfect as people. Your authenticity resides in loving the skin that you are in, not enduring unnecessary procedures to change who you were made to be. Because you have internalized racism or colorism. You move beyond that and you understand that your skin is beautiful. Your body design is beautiful. And you love every curve, my favorite thing, every huckle and buckle you got. That is self-love. So your generational blessing is having a pride in your people and a love for yourself. When you look in the mirror, you see a beautiful person. Remind yourself that, especially if you are thinking that you are not getting love because of your race or your complexion. Fear-based decision making. That's a complex one because that fear-based decision making shows up wildly. As a matter of fact, I gave a prime example of how fear-based decision making can just show up wildly that we are unaware of, as we talked about creating that space for men and women to have open and authentic conversation. The next thing that I said in that discussion was there's some fear in there, right? The gift that helps you bear that fear-based is courage. The willingness to do what needs to be done, that is necessary for growth and development. That is what courage is. The willingness to do what needs to be done. Um, you know what's funny? I think that is a good statement that it didn't show, but okay, I see what I need to do. So, Liberty said one of the best decisions that she made was going natural 15 plus years ago. And I can say that is a great example of moving from that internalized colorism, that internalized racism, but thinking that your natural hair, your natural complexion is not necessarily good enough, and moving into a space of cultural pride and advocacy, right? And at this point, for real, Liberty, I'm gonna keep it to you. You like Alan Payne, and you might have your hair may be a example for the larger metamorphosis that you come through. But I can tell you, you definitely switched from just for me, JUSTFORME. You done switch from just for me to, I say that Alan Payne, and what is that move? What is that? CB4. I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black at the black, and I'm black, y'all. I'm bliggy black, black at the black. Hey, you know what? That is very good. And I think that's what I was vaguely kind of trying to say. The idea, um, information can help create that self-love. Although I talked about Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, and those people, I wasn't alive when they were doing what they're doing. So I had to read and research. Information is what helped me. Combined with their love for books, information was allowed what helped me to create this self-love. Understanding that beauty is all over. And the main thing that makes people beautiful is the confidence to be themselves. And as a man, I do recognize when it comes to hair, I have a little more freedom and flexibility when it comes to hair to still be seen as approved. As long as I don't do anything like locks or cornrows, and I use that loosely because you know I definitely had locks, society as a whole will still give me a pass. I can do a mohawk and I'll still get a pass. But as women, y'all are judged way more strict on your hair. The only time men really get judged on the same level as women about their hair is when they get that cow look, when that top gone. When they get that convertible top, boy, they don't get no pass. Well, books have been tremendous in creating a space to be able to grow self-love, for real, for real. So that is an excellent observation. Where we at? Right. So we're gonna have the courage. That fear-based decision-making thing comes with courage, and that is the ability to do the willingness, not the ability, the willingness. Because plenty of people have the ability and don't have the willingness. The willingness to do what is necessary for growth, right? And clarity of choices. So clarity of choices, for the most part, is, we talked about it in the quantum shift stuff. So when you make an idea, you collapse all the possibilities to one. So clarity and choices is stepping back from that one idea and opening up the possibilities. So now you can actually see all the options that you do have. So then you'll be more in line to pick a better option for you. So your what's his name is really possibility thinking. Step back and look at the clarity. Look at the choices. They will clear up for you, and the courage to do what needs to be done. Financial education and literacy and educational literacy. That's complex, especially tied into that racism or colorism. But financial education, your gift resides in empowerment through knowledge and access. So, one, you become more informed with how finances work, whether it's purposefully or your life path take you there. So, for example, most of my financial literacy has come through my life choices. I never really studied, like purposely gone and study finances to be a little more informed about that. I just continued on my life path, and I've learned so much about finances, specifically in running businesses. It has increased my financial knowledge, whether it be grants, budgets, fundraising. Oh, you know what? I don't do that. Fundraising. And then once you have that knowledge, you create systems where people can access that. Maybe not necessarily have the funds, maybe not necessarily have the education, but you wind up creating systems where people can access that. For example, one reason that I was able to go to college is because some people who created a system that allowed us to access that. Because when I was in school, they wasn't talking to us about going to college. And I wound up finding out about this thing called Campus Connection. And it was just a couple who decided that they wanted to take us around and show us what college was like. And they gave us the access. So many of us who participated in Campus Connections were able to get scholarships that we never wouldn't have got. They created the access. And because of that, many of us now create access for others. Your gift resides in knowledge, the information, and creating the access for others. Living in survival mode. Many of us do that. And the thing about that is the reason why we can't get out of it is because we're focusing on the burden, right? And when we move into a space of thriving, not just making a decision that will make us survive, but a decision that will help us thrive, right? So this is for real. I'll give a real example. So, federal workers and more, because I'm not a direct federal worker at all, are furloughed right now, right? A survival mindset would be like, hey, I don't know how long this furlough gonna be on. I got bills and responsibilities. I'm gonna have to quit and find a new job. That's a survival mindset. I gotta survive regardless. But a thriving mindset understands that instead of focusing on paying bills and stuff like that, I can create a system that allows me to feel a little freedom. And that is investing in myself. So that's more of the reason why this has allowed me the opportunity to be able to focus on completing a book. You know what I mean? Maybe several books. And that is a thriving mindset, because these will create, dead serious, these will create passive incomes where I don't have to be so stressed when stuff like this happens. I still have money coming in. So your thriving mindset and abundance mentality, specifically, especially when it comes to abundance, one of the reasons many of us don't experience abundance is because of our subconscious. We don't think that we're worthy of that abundance. We're thinking about, I got to do this, I got to do that. But The way you live in abundance is being thankful for the abundance that's already present in your life. For example, in this furlough, I'm thankful for the abundance of love that I still receive. I'm thankful for the abundance of breath, the air I still receive. I'm thankful for the abundance of opportunities that I still have. You know what I mean? And living in a space of abundance, being thankful for what you are, the abundance, identifying the abundance you already have in your life creates a path that more abundance can flow directly down, right? All right, let's see what's cracking. So recognizing the abundance that you have, stop focusing on what you don't have. You know what I mean? Start being thankful for what you do have. That is where your blessings reside. Being thankful for what you do have. Because when you're thankful for what you do have, you can get more, right? And a thriving mindset is one that allows you to plan. So you're not just living day to day. You're not just living by worries and fears. You're thinking about confidence. You got clarity and choices. You function in a way that allows you growth and possibility. Again, potential, right? You see the potential. You believe the potential, and you put that potential into motion. Okay, dang, I done ran over. We're gonna finish this one tonight, though. You heard? Yeah, for sure. The next is overprotection or control. That, oh God, Jesus Christ. A lot of people think that overprotection and control creates safety, but it doesn't. It shows lack of trust and lack of ability. So if you are in a person that feels safe when they have control, I advise you, or I would ask that you experience a little time working on your relationship with trust, because your blessings, your gift resides in trust. Trust that you connected with the right people. Trust that these people have the skills to do what you need. Trust that you have the skills to do what's necessary. Specifically, as much as we like to talk about trust for others, it's really, really your gift becomes self-trust. Not that you just, I trust my intuitions, right? Because trauma intuition ain't going to lead you right. It's still intuition, but it's just based on trauma. But you trust the decisions that you make. You trust that you can choose better for yourself. If you've had, that's where that bravery, where I talked about the ability to be able to love vulnerably as you did before, that's where that bravery comes in. It is a nice crock pot of trust, confidence, and bravery. Trust for yourself. Trust that you know. You begin to trust yourself, and you give trust to others, not functioning in this space where trust is earned, because that makes the assumption that you have all the answers when you don't. But trust is to be given. It can be damaged, it can be lost, but it's still to be given. Your gift resides in trusting and autonomy. That is giving people the space to make choices for themselves. As a matter of fact, we made the video last week talking about guilt-driven parenting, guilt-driven cycles. Guilt-driven parenting is based on overprotection and control, right? And one of the things that I said is, if you're doing this because you love me, I question your love, because most of this is really for control. That autonomy, giving people the space to be themselves, giving yourself the space to be yourself and make decisions for yourself. Your gift resides in your autonomy. That is not the fear or worrying about what your choice is going to do to someone else. Your healthy choices. We don't go out here and make choices, selfish choices. Even though occasionally it's okay to be selfish. But we don't want to live a life of selfish choices because we're upholding our autonomy. Because that's not necessarily autonomy. That's suppression of others through your individual choices and actions. But creating a space for people to be themselves and they're comfortable to be themselves and make their choice for themselves, being in a space where someone can tell you no. I hear a lot of people talk about how I don't like, especially in relationships, I don't like when my mate tells me no. What is wrong with your control? That somebody can't even tell you no without you taking it as a personal attack. So autonomy, your gift, your blessing resides in creating the space to be yourself and for others to be themselves and being a pillar example of trust, specifically for yourself. Trust in your decision, trust in your direction, trust in your chances, and understanding that even if you make a mistake, you trust that you'll do better the next time, right? The last one is lack of boundaries. Lack of boundaries has been funny. I was having a conversation with someone and we started talking about creating. I know that's right. That is a good statement. Gratitude is the gateway to abundance. It is being thankful for what you have. Okay, so it's funny. It's not funny, but it is funny. So, of course, I do. When I do Reiki, I generally have a soundtrack because we do sound therapy at the same time. So it's music and sounds that I'm playing, right? So I have a work playlist and then I have a wrap up. So after we're finished, we just play calming music, but it ain't as intense as the calming music that I do for work. But one of them songs is on there that was Gangsta White Walls. CD and TV antenna in the back. And the main point of that song is be thankful for what you got. You may not drive. So that is gratitude is the gateway to abundance. And hey, and this is funny. Another side note that really does have nothing to do with nothing. Hey Donnie. I seen you looking extra fly in your homecoming pictures, girl. Congratulations. Listen, they keep trying to get me to go to homecoming, but I don't even want to say the last time I've been to homecoming because motherfuckers going to be like, damn, you old. Right? You feel me? I agree. It's like, oh, these old knees ain't homecoming knees. When I say you look at extra fly, thanks for stopping by, family. Last one is lack of boundaries. So anyway, the wild thing about lack of boundaries is once, okay, again, I established how many people don't realize they have a boundary issue because they're good at drawing lines, right? So they have the ability that at a certain point, they draw a line in the sand, right? But the thing about that is having to draw lines pretty much shows you don't have good boundaries because you don't draw a line until somebody has crossed your boundary several times. So you can't take it anymore, right? And the ironic thing about the lack of boundaries is once you recognize that you've been drawing lines but not creating boundaries, you look at the environments that you're in and you'll see that you are surrounded by people who are environments that don't respect your boundaries. You haven't respected your boundaries, but your gift is recognizing that and moving into a space where you begin to create healthy boundaries. You understand that it is okay to say no to others. You understand that once you draw these boundaries, you no longer live in a space of fear because you reside in mutual respect, right? You understand that when you draw these boundaries, that some people will not be able to respect that, and that's okay. You take the consequences with that because you are living in your authentic self and you're being true to yourself, right? And so much so that when you respect your boundaries, the boundaries you have, not the lines you've drawn in the sand, the clear boundaries that you've had, like boundaries on your integrity. I will not just steal because the opportunity is there. It resides in mutual respect. So once you wind up having these healthy boundaries, you recognize that it's a little bit easier to respect others' boundaries and create a space for respect. And I talked about it. Respect is almost as strong as love. So when they're creating that, not only do you now have healthy boundaries, you understand that it's okay to say no to others and yourself. You're okay to prioritize yourself at times. Healthy boundaries, not always being open and available, and you move in this space of respect. You find some freedom, respect for yourself, and respect for others is where you will find your freedom. Healthy boundaries, healthy boundaries, healthy boundaries, healthy boundaries, healthy boundaries, healthy boundaries, healthy boundaries. And I got that word enmeshment because it's so intertwined. It means pretty much so intertwined that you wind up, you can't tell who's who. As a matter of fact, that's like those those couples who share a Facebook page. That's enmeshment. They so intertwined that they can't even be individual people anymore. Right? And then the other idea of lack of boundaries, which has been fantastic, is the parentification. I'm glad we thought about the words. And that is giving responsibilities to your children that are for adults, right? And I think I used the example of the Dr. Phil show where there was this divorced woman with her 3 children. And of course, she was having an issue with her ex-husband. And when it came time for the light bills and all this stuff, the daughters are talking to the ex-husband about the bills. And that's parentification because these are children. They should not know all the problems that are going on with your finances. They should not know all the things that are going on in your relationship. Your children are not there to be your friends. It is unfair to give them the responsibility. The other example we always use is latchkey kids. That is parentification. We watching ourselves as siblings instead of adult helping us. So that is an example of unhealthy boundaries, especially for parents. But moving to that respect for your child, allow your child to have the space. We're not going to be so enmeshed that we sharing Facebook pages. They'll call you back in a minute. It's a problem. Or so much that our child is handling adult problems instead of being a child. All right, family. So that covers our generational blessings as they relate to our emotional body, physical body, spiritual body, and mental body. For the rest of this year and moving forward, we're going to stop focusing on our generational curses and we will begin to call it rebuilding or strengthening our generational blessings. We don't even see the generational curse no more because we're moving in a space that allows us to keep sight on the abundance and the blessings we do have, right? So family, if you wind up so you missed any of the sessions, you want to go back, most of them are labeled. You can check out all the other things that you can go through the whole process, which has been great. So next week, I think something that kind of came to me happenstance that I think might be good for us is to be able to discuss how do we, where did I write that down? How to map a vision for your life. We're going to have to separate our thoughts, um, thoughts and ideas from a vision for our life. So next week we'll start working on how do we define a vision for our life. A lot of people want to know their purpose. They don't they don't understand, and it's crazy because it's going to require us to do some of the things that I hated to do. But in this healing process have become okay, hold on. Second nature to me. I'm like boo, 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 boo. And that is writing. We got to get it down on paper. It winds up becoming the roadmap to our success. Boo, boo, boo. There we go. I know that's right. Yeah, little that thing came. Hey man, it said I can reply to you. We're gonna see. I'm sorry, I'm playing games with you now. So now I always want to see if it works, but see, I knew it wasn't gonna work. They keep telling me I gotta join Twitch. Man, I'm on Twitch, man. What you talking about? What is you talking about? Hey, that's perfect. You definitely did made that it is the synchronicity of life. You just finished your journal, and I give you props. You've been helping me with my book too, so I'm excited about that. Liberty tried to hate on my book a little bit because she's been excited. And I was like, "Yo, you excited about the book?" And she was like, "Nah, your book just basic, but I'm excited that you're doing things for yourself." This shot down my book. Um, but again, the book is going to be the 7 spaces of healing. And I think we covered that, Jesus Christ, last year. It was a minute ago. So you can go on YouTube and watch some. Listen, support YouTube. Give me some love. As a matter of fact, YouTube been doing numbers. I was crunk because I could not get a YouTube short over about 500 views, right? But it's no real rhyme or reason, so I think it's really a YouTube thing. But the other day, man, we went clean a nice amount over 1,000. So, but you can go to YouTube and you can follow. You can watch the episodes on the 7 spaces of healing, and that'll give you a heads up on the book. But by next week, I should be able to share some of that with you all. At least, I really do want to. So watch my social media page too, because we might do some picking on which book cover is going to be the best. That's pretty much what you said, though. I mean, Libby trying to say she didn't say that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I read. She was like, "Your book sucked, but I'm crunk for you, though." And I'm like, I'm glad you happy for me, but I put a lot of work in that book, man. Them 7 spaces of healing is a ton of work. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just looking at my teeth. All right. So, even though she won't admit she said it, we're going to ignore it. But I hope to see you Thursday while we continue reading Razorblade Tears, which has been an interesting book. If we don't see you Thursday, I hope I get you back here Tuesday for another episode of Soul Swami Live, where we'll start mapping out a vision for our life. As a matter of fact, we won't necessarily start mapping out the vision. We'll have discussions and we'll start making connections because, surprisingly, we've already been taking steps to map out the vision of our life when we mapped out what we want our rich life to look like, what we want our love life to look like, who we got to be to get those things. And then last week we started with we did what do we want our family to look like. So we're gonna be drawing some connections with some of that stuff and seeing how we have been working on the vision for our life, and then flesh out some more vision for our life. Whew, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy. Yeah, dead serious. That book probably gonna be out within the next week or so. The thing that's driving me crazy is one the book cover, but I think I'm getting closer to a book cover, and the acknowledgments has been way more difficult than I thought. But I am going to. How you go? What the hell? Oh, what the hell? I heard something fall. I was like, what is going on with my raised stick? How you gonna call me a hater on my old show? You a hater, part-time hater. I'll give you that. But yeah, the acknowledgments has been difficult, ironically, because you want to get everybody and not miss anybody. So like I said, we probably do some choices on book covers, but within the next 2 weeks or so, 2 weeks tops, that book gonna be on. It's gonna be somewhere. You'll be able to order it. You'll be able to get the ebook. So I'm gonna start doing videos, holding my book like, hey, make sure you get 7 Spaces of Healing by Swami. You feel me? So I'll have to open up a TikTok shop and all that stuff. But at some point, I'll probably make a workbook because the book itself is good. And within the book, something that I have ARCs, advanced reader copies out now, and people are reviewing it. But something that really made me think about it is one of the people were like, I liked how you asked the prompt questions to make us think. And listen, as a matter of fact, I might put a dedication to you, to my number one hater, Liberty. You listen. And you know what's funny too? One of the other things that kind of slowed it down is thinking about who I really want to acknowledge. And I gotta figure out a way. I do want to acknowledge and include my family, like my mama, my pops. You know what I mean? And I want to make sure I acknowledge them. Even though my mama ain't talking to me right now, I don't care. That's her problem. You feel me? I still want to acknowledge that. So the acknowledgement has been difficult, but I might knock that out tomorrow. But anyway, family, hope to see you here next Thursday. If you're not going to be here Thursday, I hope to see you next Tuesday. I appreciate you. Gratitude. And I wish you peace. And so, it's peace and peace times. All right, family. Peace.